Tonight, Kerry Packer recovers in hospital after more surgery. A search underway for car thieves posing as police. And another loss for the Windies, beaten by the Prime Minister's 11.
With Elise Mooney, this is 7 News.
Good evening. Australia's richest man, Kerry Packer, is back in hospital tonight, recovering from minor surgery. He was readmitted just 2 weeks after a kidney transplant, prompting unconfirmed reports he was near death.
Emerging from Royal Prince Alfred, where his father had been readmitted late yesterday, James Packer appeared solemn.
Everything's fine.
Also visiting the tycoon, the man who saved his life. Helicopter pilot Nick Ross donated a kidney to his boss.
He's in wonderful condition, there's no dramas, and that's it.
His own condition, a more comfortable subject.
Well, you can see.
You look great, but how are you feeling? Tell us.
I'm feeling great.
At a lunchtime function, daughter-in-law Jodie wouldn't be drawn on Mr Packer's health.
I wouldn't like to speak on behalf of my husband's family. Sorry, that's all right.
But in a statement, Australian Consolidated Press revealed that he is well, has a normally functioning transplant kidney and is free of rejection. 97% of kidney transplants from living donors are still successful after 1 year, and after 5 years, it's still 90%.
There are reports whizzing around the city of Sydney that Kerry Packer may have passed away. If that's the case, obviously, condolences go out to the family.
But when Sydney Radio 2UE broadcast rumours of Mr Packer's death, the share price of his PBL company dropped sharply, at one stage losing 19 cents. And while Kerry Packer might be the hospital's most famous patient, Australia's richest family can't avoid a parking ticket. Amanda Palmer, 7 News.
The Prime Minister has come under new pressure to negotiate a treaty with Aborigines. It's one of the main recommendations in today's final report by the Council for Reconciliation.
It's the culmination of a decade's work. In its final report to government, the Council for Aboriginal Reconciliation has looked at past challenges and the road ahead.
The momentum towards reconciliation is now unstoppable.
The emotional highlight of the Council's work came when hundreds of thousands of Australians joined marches for reconciliation around the country. Its final 6 recommendations include a referendum to recognise Indigenous people in a new preamble to the Constitution, and it calls for a treaty between black and white Australians.
If there is a will for a lasting settlement, including a treaty or treaties, we must find a way.
But that's unlikely to happen under this government. The Prime Minister has repeatedly refused to examine a treaty or a national apology, calling them divisive.
It is true that there are some different views about the concept of a treaty. I think it's more important to focus on those things where we agree.
The push for reconciliation will continue, a new foundation taking up the Council's work. In Canberra, Colleen Daly, 7 News.
Opposition leader Kim Beazley and a member of his shadow ministry are the latest politicians accused of electoral rorts. It's been revealed Labor paid dissident members of the Democrats to hand out election leaflets in Mr Beazley's seat.
This is the man at the centre of the latest electoral rorts claims. David Churches was a member of a breakaway group of Australian Democrats at the 1996 federal election.
We were keen to highlight the shortcomings of Cheryl Curnow.
Those shortcomings included her decision to direct Democrat preferences to the Liberal Party, including in Kim Beazley's Perth seat. Mr Churches says Labor secretly paid around $6,000 for these campaign leaflets urging Democrat voters to ignore the party line and direct preferences to the ALP.
It's symptomatic of some deals that have been done that have been kept quiet.
Mr Beazley only won his seat by about 400 votes, and preferences were crucial. His office says there was nothing wrong because the payment was disclosed in election returns and didn't assist any other candidate. One of Mr Beazley's front benches, Laurie Ferguson, is also under fire after former ALP member Janice Hamilton alleged he falsely enrolled a number of people in his own electorate.
I've lived with this guilt of the things that have happened in the ALP for the last 5 to 8 years.
That brought a swift response.
The principal allegations against me by Ms Hamilton is that I instructed her to be falsely enrolled. I categorically deny this.
Both sides of politics now go into Parliament's Christmas break sullied by accusations of electoral rorts. But for Labor, the stakes are higher, with Queensland's vote-rigging inquiry still due to table its final report. In Canberra, Glenn Milne, 7 News.
Police investigating the discovery of 2 bodies near Strathalbyn, north of Adelaide, are searching a warehouse often used for rave parties. Forensic police have found bloodstains in the Port Adelaide building. They've identified the bodies as those of missing men 57-year-old John Goodwin and 35-year-old Terry Comans. It's believed they were bashed to death, with their bodies wrapped in plastic, then dumped by the side of the road 10 days ago. Synagogues in Sydney could be forced to close because their insurance bills are rising dramatically. It follows a series of attacks on Jewish centres in the city's eastern suburbs.
This is the reason behind the insurance premium increases. Workmen discovered a suspicious package under a synagogue in Bondi.
We evacuated the scene and we called in our bomb disposal unit. They have since rendered the package safe.
The incident comes just a month after the same synagogue was set alight during a series of attacks on the Jewish community. One local rabbi's home firebombed 3 times.
Well, I think it's very, very unfortunate that in a country like Australia, such acts of violence are occurring. Thank God nothing happened this time.
The police have set up a special task force to investigate the attacks following the recent surge in violence in the Middle East.
The real price of these attacks has been a massive increase in insurance premiums. One of the worst cases, a synagogue in Parramatta, is facing a 300% rise from $3,500 to almost $12,500 a year.
The government says that plays into the hands of extremists.
If they can't close them down, it may seem that the Insurance Council of Australia and the insurers achieve the same outcome just by increasing the price of insurance.
Not only do we have to face the problem of the violence, but we also have to face the problem that we now can't or may not be able to insure against it.
The Insurance Council of Australia says premiums on all religious buildings are up due to an increase in burglary and arson. Megan Miller, 7 News.
A search is underway for 3 car thieves posing as police officers in a bid to steal Subaru sports cars. They struck 3 times today using fake identification and, in one case, flashing a gun on a woman.
The latest victim of the bogus police was pulled over on the Monash freeway near Stud Road shortly after 7 this morning.
Flashing their lights at me, they're sounding their horn, driving beside me, behind me, all over the place, indicating for me to pull over, flashing a badge through the window.
As soon as he'd pulled into the emergency lane, Jim knew the men weren't police and their identification was fake.
Guy came up to the driver's door, asked me to step out of the car, which I refused to get out of the car, sat there with seatbelt on.
As Jim was dialing 000 on his mobile phone, one of the men leant into the car and punched him in the head several times before pulling the keys out of the ignition.
You're just idiots, yeah, absolute idiots.
The first intended victim was stopped in Jeffreys Parade in the city shortly before 6 this morning. The woman driver threatened with a gun.
One of the suspects has lifted his shirt, and inside on his tracksuit pants he's had a what she believes was a firearm. Believed to be a semi-auto.
Half an hour later, the bogus police struck at Preston, succeeding in stealing their next victim's blue WRX, similar to this, registered OOR331. On each occasion, the men in their 20s used a silver Celica as a pretend unmarked police car. Detectives say it's likely the robbers were responsible for an attack on a Faulkner car dealer 2 days ago, who was tied up and bashed by 3 men when he refused to hand over the keys to a WRX sitting in his lot.
We won't be stocking them anymore. They're just not worth the hassle.
Peter Morris, 7 News.
Surgeons at Melbourne St Vincent's Hospital have developed a world first in the treatment of heart attack victims. It involves chilling the patient's blood.
Hypothermia is a well-known killer. The human body unable to cope when our temperature drops well below 37 degrees. But now St Vincent's Hospital doctors will deliberately chill the blood of heart attack patients to save them. Damage to coronary muscles during a heart attack can leave victims severely weakened, unable to exert themselves. By reducing damage to the heart muscles, doctors say recovery will dramatically improve.
People will be able to have a better quality of life, hopefully live longer. It might save lives.
It's hard to believe Reg Humphreys had 2 heart attacks this year. The 73-year-old was the first to undergo the blood-chilling procedure and has fully recovered. He says it was painless.
I could answer back. I was warm. So they insulate you on the outside.
Reg is now back, working the land 7 days a week.
I'm working as good as I've worked, and I don't feel nothing.
The procedure is simple. A cold probe inserted into a major vein cools the blood and drops body temperature to hypothermic levels, around 33 degrees, slowing damage to the heart. Reg Humphrey says it's certainly worth a try.
I will have a good life. I've got a lot of living.
Dean Allen Craig, 7 News.
The grandmother whose family abandoned her at Sydney's Central Railway Station has returned to Adelaide. 88-year-old Alice Crozer was taken in by Mission Australia after her sons refused to look after her.
She's the grandmother nobody wants.
Lovely.
2.5 weeks ago, Alice arrived in Sydney by train. Today she's leaving in style by plane.
Are you pleased to be heading back to Adelaide?
No. I like Sydney.
And with good reason.
I like to chase all the boys.
The 88-year-old grandmother came to Sydney to stay with family. She waited for hours at Central Station, but no one picked her up. Abandoned, she was taken in by Mission Australia.
Came down here to help my sons, but just didn't want me. I just have to go back and try and forget everything.
Her sons visited her but wouldn't take her in, saying she's too difficult.
Giving cheek, driving everybody mad.
Mission Australia says she's delightful.
She's been very nice, joking with the staff, mixing with the other residents, so no, we haven't found her difficult.
Mission Australia says Alice Crozer's story is not the first. They've had dozens of cases where elderly people have been dumped by their families. Alice will now live in an aged care unit. Stephanie Kennedy, 7 News.
More thunder, lightning and hail over Sydney tonight. The storm moved in from the south coast, putting on a spectacular light show. Marylands in the city's west received a huge hail dump, the weight of the ice causing the roof of this gift shop to collapse. The storm has since moved out to sea. I'll be back with more after the break, including Jeffrey Robertson's case against the Queen and the country businessman bearing all for charity. Australia's unemployment rate was up by 0.3% in November to a 5-month high. As finance reporter Kylie Merritt explains, today's figures don't reflect just how big that jump is because of a lower than usual participation rate.
Close to 60,000 jobs have disappeared, the biggest drop in total employment since the height of the 1991 recession. The bulk of the job losses have been part-time, with the youth unemployment rate jumping 1.5%. The Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry is fighting the ACTU's living wage claim. The unions want around 2 million low-income earners to get an extra $28 per week, but employers say the 7% pay rise is unsustainable. The Industrial Relations Commission should rule in March. The federal government is claiming a win after the World Trade Organisation overruled US quotas and tariffs on imports of Australian lamb. It remains to be seen if America will appeal the decision, but Trade Minister Mark Vaile says he'll seek immediate removal of the tariffs as soon as the appeal period ends. And briefly, shares in former internet darling Liberty One have been suspended. The company's appointed Ernst & Young as its voluntary administrator. For the second day in a row, our share market has closed just above steady, thanks largely to the resources sector. The All Ordinaries Index closed 1 point up at 3,252. The ASX 200 also up 1 point. AMP shed 2 cents, BHP closed 16 cents higher at $19.36, but Telstra shares fell 8 cents. Continued speculation the US is in for an interest rate cut is doing wonders for the Aussie dollar. It's hit a 9-week high of just above 55 US cents. It also buys close to 61 yen and 38 pence. Gold is worth $274 US an ounce and Asian markets are weaker. And that's all from the Finance Centre for today. Join David Koch on Sunrise at 6 tomorrow morning or visit davidkoch.i7.com.au. I'm Kylie Merritt. Good night.
Australia and Indonesia have taken a major step towards improved relations. A delegation of 5 Indonesian ministers has arrived in Canberra for talks, the first since Australia led international forces into East Timor. The forum will focus on restoring cooperation and developing new trade links.
Some of our ministers are... We've had our differences in recent times,
but we understand the strategic importance of having a constructive working relationship.
The meeting should pave the way for a much-delayed visit by Indonesia's president. Prominent Australian barrister Geoffrey Robertson wants to prosecute the Queen on behalf of a British newspaper. It claims the monarchy discriminates against religion, launching its case just as the Queen was opening a new session of Parliament.
Travelling to Westminster in the coach that was Australia's bicentennial gift, the Queen arrived to officially open Parliament with all the pomp and ceremony the English do so well. The monarchy itself is under attack, this time from the left-wing pro-republic newspaper The Guardian. It's hired prominent Australian QC Geoffrey Robertson to take the monarchy to court, saying the right to succession is discriminatory as it bans non-Protestants and anyone born outside wedlock.
The Queen commands this Honourable House to attend Her Majesty immediately in the House of Peers.
Tell us to read The Guardian.
Announcing a package of legislation the government hopes will beat the so-called yob culture in Britain, the Queen flagged several crime-busting bills, including a curfew to keep troublesome teens off the streets after dark.
My government is determined to combat all aspects of crime, to protect all members of our society.
It's no fault of us, is it? We can't do what we want. It's up to our mums what time we're allowed out to.
Even if the